Thank you, Chief Secretary, Dr. Rushwai, members of the Fourth Estate Cabinet received and considered the report on the update of the current fertilizer supply, demand and price situation. The nation is advised that the national demand for fertilizers is estimated at 400,000 metric tons of basal and 380,000 metric tons of top dressing per annum for both the summer and winter cropping seasons. The local fertilizer industry is currently having challenges, and the supply gap is being covered largely by imports. And the Zimbabwe Fertilizer Manufacturers Association and those under the collateral management agreement have already indicated that they are having challenges in terms of supply. Cabinet has then approved that farmers are now allowed to import fertilizers directly from suppliers outside the country in order to augment the local supplies, whilst the government of Zimbabwe develops a long-term comprehensive solution to the fertilizer challenges. Cabinet considered the report on the cement industry in terms of market supply and demand situation as presented by the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Honorable Dr. Stembiso Nyoni. The nation is advised that following reports of artificial cement shortages in the market and an increase in terms of the prices, Cabinet has approved the importation of cement by individuals and companies with free funds. And in terms of a proposed roadmap to electricity self-sufficiency, Cabinet considered and approved the roadmap to electricity self-sufficiency as presented by the Minister of Energy and Power Development, Honorable Edgar Moyo. Cabinet wishes to inform the nation that the current local power generation capacity is 1,280 megawatts against the current average local demand of about 1,850 megawatts, leaving a deficit of about 400 megawatts. And in order to cover the deficit, the country is currently importing power in the range of between 200 to 500 megawatts. Regarding measures to resolve the operational challenges, the government of Zimbabwe will restructure the power utility company ZESA, decommission and repurpose the small thermal power stations, contain technical and non-technical losses, and implement various power-saving initiatives in the medium to long term in terms of parameters. The government of Zimbabwe will also embrace private sector-led coal mining initiatives and new technologies such as green hydrogen, the floating of solar plants, battery energy storage systems, and funding some of the renewable energy projects dotted across the country in order to increase domestic generation of electricity. Cabinet also received reports on the progress made in the implementation of priority projects for the third 100-day cycle for the year 2023 as presented by the Ministers of Health and Child Care, the Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, the Minister of Local Government and Public Works, and the Minister of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare. The Minister of Health and Child Care, Honorable Dr. Douglas Mombeshora, reported on progress recorded for projects under his purview as follows: that drilling and installation of solar-powered boreholes has been completed at 10 health facilities in Manicaland province. that the construction of the Bahe health post in Hwange district has reached 70% in terms of completion. That the construction of the Mtare nut farm warehouse is 98% in terms of completion. That the installation of medical gas reticulation at Banket, Chivu and Victoria Falls hospitals is at 98%, 97% and 80% in terms of completion respectively. And that the construction of the Runyararo clinic in Chimanimani district is at 85% in terms of completion, whilst the Mataga clinic in Mberengwa district is at 100% in terms of completion. The Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, Honorable Kazembe Kazembe, reported progress on projects under his purview as follows: that the preliminary engagements were done with stakeholders for the establishment of community archives in Mashonaland Central Province in terms of ensuring that the community archives focus primarily on former protected villages. That the Harara Waiting Mothers Shelter in Zaka district in Masvingo province is 96% in terms of completion. That the construction of the Zimbabwe Republic Police Lotito station in Mount Darwin district, Mashonaland Central, has reached 95% in terms of completion. And that the decentralization of e-passport services to Mwenezi district in Masvingo province has commenced with all materials now on site. The Acting Minister of Local Government and Public Works, Honorable Julaimon, reported on progress recorded for projects under the ministry's purview as follows: that the electrification at the Lupane composite offices is at 10% in terms of completion, that the construction of the perimeter wall at the Mtare DDC's office is 77% in terms of completion, that the construction of roads in Mashonaland Central, Manicaland, Masvingo and Mashonaland East provinces under the Emergency Road Rehabilitation Program 2 through the utilization of devolution funds are at different stages of completion, that the construction of staff houses in Gutu and Masvingo province, which also includes Chitimbe High School, is 98% complete. Gutu Secondary School is 70% complete. Musia Primary School is 65% in terms of completion. And a classroom block at Nyamanzo Primary School is 50% in terms of completion, while a classroom block at Rujeko School is 98% complete. Projects to enhance access to water and sanitation at Asi Pakameni Secondary School in Lupani, Matebeleland North Province, at Pakame Primary School, Silozwi Clinic, and the Ndavankulu Maribele Primary School in Matebeleland South Province are over 80% in terms of completion. And the construction of the Mashala and Mkombo clinics in Matebeleland North are at 80% and 45% in terms of completion. The Minister of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, Honorable July Moy, also reported on the progress achieved under his ministry as follows: that a total of 9,066 children were reached through awareness raising skills, whilst 110 social service providers were trained to offer online counseling and support victims of online violence against children. That the construction of a cottage in the hut under the project Zimba and potable water for Mr. Moses Nyakabao of Mtoko district a grossly disabled pensioner has been completed, and that the authority to train 162 arbitrators on the new provisions of the Labour Amendment Act number 11 of 2023 has been granted, and that 100 white cans were procured for 100 blind persons for Chikomba district in Mashonaland East Province. Cabinet also considered and approved Zimbabwe's hosting of the 56th session of the United Nations Economic Commission for African Ministers of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, as presented by the Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion, Honorable Professor Mthuli. The nation is informed that at the 55th session of the United Nations Economic Commission for African Ministers of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia from 15 to 21 March 2023, Zimbabwe was confirmed as the host for the 56th session program during the period 28 February to 5 March 2024. The conference will be held under the theme Bolstering Financing Mechanisms and Policy Frameworks for the Transition to Prosperous, Just and Inclusive Green Economies in Africa. The event is expected to be attended by about 1,000 people from the continent and beyond, which also comprises government officials, civil society, the United Nations family, experts, among others. The conference, therefore, presents an opportunity for Zimbabwe to enhance its global image and to market the Victoria Falls as a tourist destination of choice. The event will consist of 2 meetings as follows: a committee of experts for technical deliberations on the theme and statutory issues of the conference during the first 3 days, and the conference of ministers for the last 2 days. The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa will be working with the government of Zimbabwe, represented by the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion, in spearheading the organization of the conference. Cabinet also considered and approved the request for Zimbabwe to host the United Nations Framework on Climate Change in terms of a regional workshop for the year 2024, as presented by the Minister of Environment, Climate and Wildlife, Honorable Mangaliso Ndlovu. The nation is informed that Zimbabwe will host a 3-day consultative group of experts Africa Regional Workshop in Victoria Falls in the year 2024. The consultative group of experts is a constituted body under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Paris Agreement. Its mandate is to provide technical advice and support for developing country parties in fulfilling their reporting requirements on adaptation, mitigation, and the requisite support needed for climate action. Zimbabwe's hosting of the event will benefit the country through having more experts participating, thereby earning more foreign currency and presenting an opportunity to market the country as a safe travel and tourism destination. The UNFCCC Secretariat will cover all the costs associated with the hosting of the workshop. Cabinet also received an update on the cholera outbreak situation as presented by the Minister of Health and Childcare, Honorable Dr. Douglas Mbeshwara. In response to the cholera challenges, orders for medicines and commodities have been placed through NATFAM. The prioritization of local manufacturers has been focused on in order to ensure that we minimize on lead time. Treasury has since approved a budget of $12 million for cholera preparedness and response, the screening of all travelers, and awareness campaigns is ongoing at all points of entry, whilst health education on cholera prevention and control measures, including hygiene promotion, is being carried out in all the provinces. Cabinet also directed as follows: that intensified risk communication and community engagement, including the involvement of religious and local leadership, the intensification of school health education on cholera and other diarrheal diseases, and the utilization of existing media houses and digital platforms for content dissemination be continued in all provinces, especially in Chitungwiza and Bwera districts. That there be improved safe water access to communities through rehabilitation of boreholes and the drilling of new boreholes. That public health measures be enforced in all communities reporting cholera cases, including restrictions of gatherings in all cholera-affected areas and the supervision of all burials in all cholera-affected areas. Cabinet also received and considered the report on the SADC Extraordinary Summit, which was held in Luanda, Angola, on the 4th of November 2023, as presented by the Acting Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Honorable OCZ Muchinguri Kashiri. The summit considered the report of the extraordinary meetings of the Council of Ministers and the organ of Troika, focusing primarily on the summit held on the 26th and the 28th of September 2023 regarding the deployment of the SADC mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo and its indicative budget. The summit resolved that the SADC Force Intervention Brigade will be the nucleus of the SADC intervention in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The summit also congratulated Zimbabwe for hosting free, fair, peaceful, and credible elections held in August 2023. I think.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for the presentation. We now move to members of the press. We have any questions or clarifications. We have two sets of 3 questions. Anyone to start the process? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. And I know question regarding the cement issue raised by the minister. That cabinet has approved importation of cement for all those free farms. What kind of government? Will this also go with the import license fees that are in the office required for those who want to import cement? No, to implement the shortage. And also probably to get like the artificial that indicated. What is driving this shortage? Is about arbitrage or sabotage? What will be the cause of the artificial shortage?
Thank you very much. Secondly, was the cement imported then also regarding the cement question, this question is now directed to transport. Again, the massive infrastructure development project in other regions like and other places, particularly government projects. The cement shortage Last one. Check. Let's go to those.
Let me just finalize with Professor Mtweni, with you working on it. Okay, thank you. The first question is related to Kholisani. The second one, what's your name, ED, and your media house from there out? All right, your questions are related. The presentation was done by Honorable Stembe Sonyoni, but I will respond on her behalf. The first issue relates to the relaxation by the government of Zimbabwe in terms of utilization of free funds. But I can assure you that modalities in order also to relax the import regulations are being considered through the work that is being done currently by the Ministry of Finance, working together with the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. And the second issue, I think the background in terms of the cement manufacturing companies, primarily we have Kaya now, formerly Lafarge Cement, which has had a number of challenges technically. We also have PPC based in Rwanda, the Colin Bon one, and the other one based in Ulawai, and the other plant also based in Harare. In terms of supply, on the supply side, there's been a lot of demand for cement. Obviously, this is being due to the fact that there's been a lot of macroeconomic growth, and of particular importance is that there's been a lot of construction works that has consumed a lot of cement. There've been a lot of ongoing housing projects, road construction, commercial buildings that are being built, all because of the advent of the new dispensation in terms of creating an enabling environment which is also viable for the cement industry. But at the same time, we also have other cement manufacturing companies such as Sino, cement based in Indiva, in Lalapanzi, Pakistan, and Diamond Cement. All these organizations are failing to be able to satisfy the demand that is in the market. So Cabinet also then considered other alternative measures in order to augment the local supplies in terms of production currently taking place in the country. In terms of making sure that we achieve in terms of our national projects, the intervention will also support the supply side. So it will obviously balance the supply and demand situation. So we are hoping that the situation will normalize as we focus also on bringing on board new investors to invest also in limestone production and also the production of clinker, which will then be converted through the utilization of other chemicals to produce cement. So we are hoping the situation will normalize in future as all these organizations start to ramp up production. In addition to that, yes, free fund holders are allowed to import cement, but perhaps I also allow the Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion to add on to that.
Thank you very much. Clearly, we need to ease the supply constraints that have arisen. In the shortage of cement, we've seen the prices shoot up. Naturally, this is affecting progress on some of the government projects, but not all. Some that really are more cement intensive. So clearly, by having to increase supply, by opening up the borders, whereby it's free funds to bring in cement, this will ameliorate on this challenge and enable us to pick up speed again on our projects. So clearly, it is affecting our projects and completion of these projects. Now, on the conditions for importation, will make these easy, make it easy to get permission to import as long as you have your free funds. We just want to make sure that there's access to cement. We've done the same, by the way, as you know, with fertilizer, where we've allowed individual farmers to be able to import fertilizer using their free funds. We just want to make sure that the supply constraints are eased in demand, in response to the demand that you see both fertilizer and cement. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mtuli. Mube, I think over to you, Chief Secretary, for the second round.
Yes, let's go to the second round. Yes. That's one there's more clarification on one. The duty
Yes. No, thank you very much. Well, given what the prices that are panning out in the region and beyond, in terms of price of cement that's imported, even with the duty, the cement will be cheaper than the prices locally. So really, the duty is neither here nor there. We are going to get cheaper cement from outside.
That was a problem. The next question is, on the last time, you mentioned that you had to pay dues to which all the students are access to water. We all know that our way is no water required. So the question for you is, what are the current plans that the minister is doing to mitigate demand for water and currently what we are waiting to find? Because you mentioned about healing areas that are also what is the plan for doing that? And my second question, I want to know information maybe plan for what is the time frame to which electricity will become reliable? Given these resources
any other questions? What do you check?
Okay, thanks, Chief Secretary. The first issue, Takuzo, is not part of today's post-cabinet briefing session. But however, there are so many measures that have been put in place in order to arrest the challenges in terms of water supply situation. But I'll allow Honorable July Moyo to handle this question because you focused primarily on Harare. So I know he is a former Minister of Local Government. He is in a position to respond to that question. Honorable Moyo, Minister of former Minister of Local Government, now Minister of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare. Acting local government.
The question about water in Harare, which was tackled last week by the Minister of Water, looking at the number of areas where we could improve the water situation. The first one is the water district, where we're starting with needed in order to augment water that comes to water district. The second one is to look at the treatment plant, the previous one, again, that would increase the output to 71 megaliters. That would also satisfy the user and to some extent extend to gateway. There are other, that is short term that the ministry has they are looking at not just Harare, they are looking at the Harare, Greater Harare metropolitan area. Then there is the rural area where the installed capacity for treatment at the rural can increase 7 megaliters. That is raw water from rural into that stream. That is also communicated in plan the costed, how much is needed, and those are the money that both ministries are working together with the for finding the solution. But the third appeal, the Cholera YM, which is Mnangagwa and the machines to supply into a need them, we need to supply into Mnangagwa. That will release some water from Cholera to come to our dam, and that our dam, which is the pump, the installed capacity, which is 91 megaliters, it will dry, but to bring that water from Cholera mine to a need and down to our dam, that is also a melody. The perennial water system. So there is the water systems approach that touches on all the areas, including Marondera, with the Faro Dam, and including Chukunji, that would need to look at immediate to short term and to long term. That is the program that was given, but it touches the whole of the Greater Harare metropolitan area.
Thank you, Acting Minister of Local Government and Public Works. The second question relates to the power shortages that we currently tackle. Primarily, we generate mainly most of our power from 3 sources, being hydro, thermal power stations, and also now solar power stations. And the first step that the government of Zimbabwe has done is to accelerate the completion of most of these projects and the expansion of these projects in order to ensure that we've got energy security. You might be aware that we now have a renewable policy that was launched by the president. So in order to ensure that we also cut down on the high cost of power generation, Cabinet made a decision to decommission small thermal power stations You might be aware of Bulawa power station, might be aware of the challenges that Minyati power station is having, and also Harare power station. But at the same time, the rehabilitation of Unit 1 to 6 is ongoing. And I'm sure you are also aware that the President also commissioned Unit 7 and 8, which will generate about 600 megawatts in terms of energy. But at the initiatives. And in order to support new investments, the licensing of IPPs is also ongoing. At the same time, the licensing also in terms of other hydro and renewable projects was also considered as part of the solution. You also agree with me that the power deficit is also due to a lot of economic activity that has taken place, especially with the advent of the new dispensation, that the manufacturing industries have grown in terms of manufacturing capacity, with new mines, lithium mines, new platinum mines. All this contributes to part of the challenge. But as government, we are taking all these short-term, medium-term, and long-term measures in order to augment energy supply, in order to ensure that we've got energy security as a country. So a number of initiatives, like I've already indicated, which also includes the opening up of the sector to foreign direct investment, and also to the domestication of the energy sector as well. But perhaps I'll also allow Professor Mtuli to add onto some of the measures that the government of Zimbabwe has managed to put in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Amsore. So basically, the measures that the government has proposed in this roadmap and implementing are linked directly to the challenges that are facing our power sector. Some of these challenges have to do with recognizing that the water levels in Kariba are low, especially right now. We go through the normal seasonal fluctuations, and that will impact our power output from that hydro facility. On the thermal front, as Richard said, obviously the units go through various levels of maintenance, they're on, they're off. It's normal to have that kind of downtime. Sometimes we have a confluence of events which do lead to a lower output of electricity overall. There's also theft and vandalism, of equipment, transformers and so forth. I don't know what the hell people are doing with that oil that you find in transformers, but there's theft. Or something, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So that also leads to other challenges in terms of power supply. It also, we are aware that the tariff has been an issue as well. I think that the tariff from time to time should be reviewed so that it can reflect the cost buildup that is needed to support sustainable ZESA as an entity. Where ZESA, for instance, they had to borrow from the markets, there's high cost of borrowing in terms of interest rates. So all these impact the cash flows and financial situation of utility. So as already mentioned, the issue around reorganizing the utility in terms of various units, rebanding of ZESA, we always use that phrase. All those will go a long way in improving operational efficiency. So government interventions brought around these kind of issues. For instance, there's one area where we think we could make a lot of savings. It's in the area of metering. Just an aggressive metering program is what the utility is trying to implement. And we expect that by the end of 2025, we should be able to have collected an additional 400 megawatts just from a more efficient metering approach. That's another additional 400 megawatts currently that is being lost. And then the losses from transmission, which have been mentioned, which amount to about 20% of the power that is transmitted through the grid. We're only receiving 80% in the final destination. So that is an issue. With old aging infrastructure for transmission, and we need to invest some money there working with the private sector, and that will take time. In countries like China, for example, they only experience about 4% losses as opposed to our 20%. Just to give an example of what how better we could do. But also we continue to import power. We expect that in the next 12 months we import something like 190 megawatts from outside. But of course, over time we want to reduce our power imports from domestic sources. So for instance, the investment that we are seeing from the independent power producers is critical to supplement whatever ZESA is producing. And most of these are operating in the solar space. So in the next few months, we expect to approve projects that will bring in another 500 megawatts just from the solar sector. And we expect that within the year of 2024, a lot of these will come on stream. They're close to breakability in terms of their cycle of launching. So we hope that they'll come on board without fail by at least by the beginning of 2025. But our expectation is that by year 2025, Zimbabwe should not import any power. We should be completely self-sufficient. We should have zero imports. That is the expectation from the capacity that should be put in place by ZESA, but also by independent power producers. So there is a roadmap, there is a plan, but it is really built around the constraints that ZESA is facing, that the sector is facing, and we're dealing with those one by one. And by 2025, we should have cleared. There should be no imports. We should be completely self-sufficient. Even with the growth that you see in the economy, we should be able to cater for that growth as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Mnangagwa. Over.